Good morning. Welcome to Budget Model Railways. And today we're looking at another Metcalfe kit, again in N, although these obviously are done in double O as well. So any comments I make, if you're a double O modeler, it's still worth watching the video because all my comments would be applicable to the double O one as well. I just happen to be making them in N. A number of you will know I'm making a town scene layout in N. And I was thinking about some of the towns, Canterbury, Ludlow, most English medieval towns actually, that have a castle or a gatehouse or castle walls in them somewhere. And I thought this would be excellent. So I reached out to Metcalfe Models, who very kindly sent me this model for review. It's great fun, I have to say. It's part of a big range. Now there's a great big castle there that you can make. They do castle walls, all sorts of things. And I have to say, I was very tempted. I'm sort of thinking, where on earth could I get the whole castle on a layout? Because it is quite impressive. In double O, it'd be even more impressive. So it is a great little building, really useful. I can, not something you'd automatically think of on a model railway. I've seen at the something show last year somebody who'd built one of these, a whole castle, and got quite wrapped up in it. I would say wargamers or anybody, this has got a lot of uses, but I think we'd all try and find somewhere to get this on a layout. It's just so unusual and so well done. As always with Metcalfe, what makes the difference is these, which are the really good instruction sheets that they come with. Interestingly, I've been buying a few second-hand ones, and the problem is some of the older ones, the instructions are good, but they're not as good as the new ones. I would also say, Metcalfe supplied this to me, but do shop around. I keep saying this. It's quite shocking on eBay. Even retailers almost double the price, some people over others. So do have a shop around. Personally, I always go on the Metcalfe site first and see what the RRP is, and then work out how much I'm prepared to pay extra for postage. If you're fortunate enough, I'm sure Metcalfe will supply. If you're fortunate enough to have a local shop, then that's probably the cheapest way to get it. So another little tip for building, these MT 907s, the fine applicators that Metcalfe make, you really can't make this kit, using some other great big messy glue thing. You really do need a fine applicator, so I definitely recommend these. As per my usual guidance, read all the instructions for the bit you're about to do very carefully before you start. If you don't, it could easily be confusing. It's not actually. I looked at this initially and thought, oh no. But in fact, if you follow what the instructions say, it's really straightforward. Usual things on the edges of the card. You will need, I use a paint felt tip pen, basically, more like a brush pen. You can use watercolour paints. I'm still always really surprised when I see these comments about the white lines on Metcalfe. There isn't any. Even Metcalfe in the instructions explain to you just to colour the edges. And once you do, they just disappear. But it is worth thinking about. So like the edges of the door here, I forgot to do. And if you are looking at a strange angle, you do get a little bit of white. So just take a bit of time with it. And it is a kit you need to take some time with. It reminded me more of making something like a plastic construction kit. This is real modelling. This is, over 4 hours of work. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed sitting there and building it. But it is quite fine. It's proper model making this. Some of the buildings, like the industrial building, you can knock them out in an hour. It's just a box. This is a bit more involved. Building a whole castle would be great fun in it. The reason I say things like make sure you read the instructions is things like this, where between making the kit and printing the instructions, they've realised that this component is 1 millimetre too tall. So you need to shorten it. I also found when putting the inside pieces on the battlements, 1 or 2, probably because I didn't push the roof down enough, sit a little proud. Not a problem, you just take a slice off the bottom, but it's worth taking the time to fit them individually. One slightly strange thing, there's a white area left here on each edge. Now it does say in the instructions to use the spare sheet which they provide, which you can do, no trouble at all. But I was a little surprised that there wasn't actually a part to do this, to finish it off. But there you go. It's not hard to put right. There is plenty of spare sheet. They also mention these edging pieces and say you probably don't need them unless you've put it together a bit badly and you've got a gap. I didn't have a gap, but I actually found they neatened the edge up. So I slightly disagree there. I would use these little edging strips, whatever, to put them in. What could be the really fiddly part is doing all these bits on the battlement. But the instructions are brilliant. Excuse me while I flip onto the right page. It shows you clearly how to do them. More importantly, on the laser cut sheet, they're in the order you want them. So what I actually did was picked a starting point, took 2 or 3 pieces off at a time, glued those on and worked my way around the laser cut sheet. So what could be quite a complex job is actually really simple. You do get these 2 curtain walls, which you can position wherever you like within reason. And you get the option to change that window to a door or a window to go in with the plan. It looks just the part on my layout, sits in the corner, really will finish it off well. Very unusual for a model railway building, I know, but as I say, I would have thought that most people could find a little corner to put this in, and it's extremely tempting. Oh, knocked it over there. Although it does show you the robust construction. It's extremely tempting to go and build that. It's just the whole thing. When you think of, I think it's Conway where the castle runs along the railway line. And I would also say, I did check, at least a small N gauge loco on a piece of track, so long as you haven't lifted it on a great big piece of cork, will go through that arch. Now, you could modify it slightly and leave out a couple of layers of card to make the gateway taller and wider, at which point you could run a loco through it, which would make a really interesting scenic break on a railway. And I may well do that in future on a layout. Such a wonderful idea. You have to be very careful about what will go through it, and there's not a lot of clearance, but that would make a real change from the tunnel mouth overbridge, wouldn't it? Train coming through a castle gateway. So as I say, really, really impressed with this. I could quite see people doing the whole castle. But as a standalone kit, really helpful, really useful. And as I say, some of the Metcalfe kits, they're great. You can knock them out really quickly without much effort. I enjoyed having to take my time with this, concentrate, and make a nice job of it. Makes it very good value for money, actually, if you're getting sort of 4 hours odd modelling out of it. And it also shows, how laser cutting has moved the models on. Before laser cutting, it would have been very difficult for Metcalfe to make this because of all these little pieces. The portcullis there's laser cut. I'll try and zoom in a little, but the detail on the windows there, some of the window frames, like in there, really something. And that's only really possible with laser cutting. So there we go. That's PN191. Castle Gatehouse, also available 00. I would thoroughly recommend you find a little corner of a layout to put that on because you won't regret it. So more layout updates to come soon. The town scene for this is coming along really, really rapidly. I'm just waiting for a few more buildings, good old Royal Mail, 2-week postage, so that I can finish off and start planning what's going to go where, and then we'll make quite a bit of progress. But fantastic little model.